Close your eyes, but keep your ears open. Tonight, we're exploring the unsettling whispers of the Zodiac Killer, a phantom figure who terrorized California and left behind a legacy of fear. Prepare for a journey into the dark corners of an unsolved enigma, designed to be both captivating and surprisingly calming. The chilling opening, a killer's introduction. The night of December 20th, 1968, began like any other cold winter evening in Northern California. The darkness had settled over the rolling hills near Vallejo, and Lake Herman Road stretched out like a ribbon of asphalt through the quiet countryside. This remote lover's lane, where young couples often came to find privacy away from prying eyes, would soon become the stage for terror that would grip the nation for decades to come. Betty Lou Jensen, 16 years old with her whole life ahead of her, sat in the passenger seat of her boyfriend's car. Beside her, 17-year-old David Faraday adjusted the radio, perhaps trying to find the perfect song for their quiet evening together. They were just teenagers, caught in that beautiful moment between childhood and adulthood, sharing stolen moments away from their parents' watchful gaze. The cold December air fogged the windows of David's 1961 Rambler station wagon as they talked and laughed, completely unaware that they were being watched from the shadows. At approximately 11:15 p.m., their peaceful evening was shattered by the sudden appearance of a figure approaching their vehicle. What happened next would transform this quiet stretch of road into one of America's most infamous crime scenes. The killer, who would later adopt the moniker Zodiac, shot both teenagers with a .22 caliber weapon. Betty Lou was found 30 feet from the car, having apparently tried to run, struck by 5 bullets. David was discovered slumped over the steering wheel, killed by a single shot to the head, shadow of the Zodiac. The crime scene was discovered by another couple who had come to the same secluded spot. Their headlights illuminated the horror that had unfolded just minutes before. 2 young lives snuffed out with shocking brutality and precision. The methodical nature of the attack, the remote location, and the apparent lack of robbery as a motive immediately set this crime apart from typical teenage violence. In the immediate aftermath, the Solano County community was gripped by fear and confusion. Local law enforcement had never encountered anything quite like this, a seemingly random attack on innocent teenagers with no apparent connection to the killer. The newspapers called it a tragic case of lover's lane murder, but investigators sensed something more sinister was at work. The precision of the attack, the calculated nature of the assault, and the killer's apparent comfort in the isolated location suggested this was not a crime of passion or opportunity, but something far more deliberate and terrifying. The Zodiac Killer had announced his presence with violence, but he had not yet announced his name. That revelation would come months later, when the phantom figure would emerge from the shadows to taunt police and the public with letters that would make this case legendary. The crosshair symbol that would become his terrifying signature had not yet been introduced to the world, but the methodical brutality that would define the Zodiac was already evident in that cold December night attack. What the community didn't know was that this was just the beginning. The killer who struck on Lake Herman Road was not finished. He was just getting started. And when he next emerged from the darkness, he would bring with him not just violence, but a psychological warfare campaign that would torment investigators and captivate the public imagination for generations to come. Escalation and cryptic ciphers. The Zodiac Killer's silence lasted nearly 7 months, creating a false sense of security in the Northern California communities. But on the warm summer night of July 4, 1969, the phantom struck again, this time at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo. Darlene Farron, 22, and Michael Majot, 19, were sitting in Darlene's car when a vehicle pulled up beside them. The occupant immediately opened fire with a 9mm handgun, killing Darlene and critically wounding Michael, who miraculously survived to provide the first eyewitness account of the Zodiac. But it was what happened after this attack that truly launched the Zodiac into the realm of criminal legend. 40 minutes after the shooting, the Vallejo Police Department received a phone call. A calm, measured voice spoke into the receiver. "I want to report a murder. No, a double murder. They are 2 miles north of park headquarters. They were in a white Volkswagen Carmen Ghia. I'm the one who did it." The caller then claimed responsibility for the Lake Herman Road murders before hanging up, leaving investigators with their first direct communication from the killer. The real psychological warfare began on July 31st, 1969, when 3 newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, each received identical handwritten letters. The letters began with the chilling phrase, "Dear editor, I am the killer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman Road." But more disturbing than the confession was what accompanied each letter, a portion of a 408-character cryptogram. The killer demanded that the ciphers be published on the front pages of the newspapers, threatening to go on a kill rampage if his demands were not met. History.com. The Z408 cipher, when the 3 parts were assembled, revealed the killer's twisted psychology. Amateur cryptographers Donald and Betty Harden solved it within a week, revealing the chilling message, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all. To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the they I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name, because you will try to slow down or atop my collectiog of slaves, for my afterly ebeoriete meth piti." The cipher not only revealed the killer's disturbing motivations, but also demonstrated his desire for publicity and control. He wasn't just killing for the sake of killing, he was orchestrating a public performance, with the media and law enforcement as unwilling participants in his twisted theater. The Zodiac's correspondence became increasingly bold and taunting. In his letters, he adopted the now famous crosshair symbol as his signature, a simple yet menacing circle with crossed lines that would become one of the most recognizable symbols in criminal history. His letters were filled with specific details about the crimes that only the killer could know, along with threats of future violence and mocking references to the police's inability to catch him. The psychological impact of these letters cannot be overstated. The Zodiac wasn't just communicating, he was terrorizing an entire region through the media. Each letter generated massive publicity, exactly as the killer intended. The public hung on every word, newspapers sold countless copies, and the killer reveled in the attention. His correspondence revealed a sophisticated understanding of mass media and psychology, suggesting an intelligence that made him even more dangerous. On September 27, 1969, the Zodiac escalated again with his most theatrical attack at Lake Berryessa. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a quiet picnic when a hooded figure approached them. Wearing an executioner-style hood decorated with his crosshair symbol, the killer bound the couple and then methodically stabbed them. Brian survived the attack, providing investigators with the most detailed description of the Zodiac's appearance and methods. But perhaps most chilling was what the killer did after the attack. He calmly walked to Brian's car and wrote on the door, "Vallejo 12, 2068, 7469, September 2769, 6:30, by knife." He was creating his own crime scene signature, documenting his work like an artist signing a painting. The Zodiac's final confirmed attack came on October 11, 1969, when he shot and killed cab driver Paul Stein in San Francisco's Presidio Heights neighborhood. This murder was different. It occurred in a busy urban area rather than a remote location, and it provided investigators with physical evidence, including a piece of Stein's bloody shirt that the killer would later mail to newspapers as proof of his involvement. Throughout this period, the Zodiac continued his correspondence campaign, sending letters with increasingly complex ciphers. The Z340 cipher, sent in November 1969, would remain unsolved for over 50 years, taunting cryptographers and amateur sleuths worldwide. Unlike the Z408, which was solved relatively quickly, the Z340 seemed to resist all attempts at decryption, adding to the Zodiac's mystique and the case's enduring fascination. Wolfram blog. The killer's letters revealed a personality that craved attention and control. He sent greeting cards, bomb diagrams, and even a piece of Paul Stein's shirt to newspapers. Each communication was carefully crafted to maximize psychological impact, demonstrating that the Zodiac understood the power of fear as a weapon just as deadly as any gun or knife. Suspects, theories, and red herrings. As the Zodiac case gained national attention, investigators found themselves drowning in leads, tips, and potential suspects. The killer's ability to strike and disappear without a trace, combined with his taunting letters, created a perfect storm of speculation and theory that continues to this day. The most prominent suspect to emerge was Arthur Lee Allen, a former elementary school teacher and convicted child molester who lived in Vallejo. Allen first came to police attention in 1971 when his friend Don Chaney reported that Allen had made disturbing comments about hunting people and had mentioned wanting to call himself Zodiac before the killer had used that name publicly. The circumstantial evidence against Allen was compelling. He owned the same type of weapons used in the attacks. He had been near the crime scenes on the dates of the murders, and he matched witness descriptions of the killer screen rant. Investigators became increasingly focused on Allen throughout the 1970s and 1980s. His personal life was troubled. He had been fired from his teaching job for inappropriate behavior with students and had served time in prison for child molestation. Friends and acquaintances described him as intelligent but disturbed, with a fascination for codes and ciphers. When police searched his home, they found evidence that seemed to connect him to the Zodiac. Zodiac brand watches, bomb-making materials, and weapons similar to those used in the attacks. Yet despite decades of investigation and multiple searches of his property, authorities never found definitive physical evidence linking Allen to the Zodiac crimes. His handwriting didn't match the Zodiac letters, and witnesses who had seen the killer couldn't positively identify him. Most significantly, when DNA evidence became available in the 1990s, tests on the Zodiac letters appeared to exclude Allen as the killer, though the quality and source of the DNA evidence remains debated among experts. The Allen investigation highlighted one of the most frustrating aspects of the Zodiac case: the abundance of circumstantial evidence that never quite reached the level of proof required for prosecution. Allen died in 1992, taking any secrets he may have held to the grave, and leaving investigators with more questions than answers about his potential involvement. Other suspects emerged over the decades, each bringing their own compelling connections to the case. Richard Gaikowski, a newspaper reporter, attracted attention because of his access to media contacts and his physical resemblance to witness descriptions. Lawrence Kane, a former Riverside City College student, became a suspect due to his presence near several crime scenes and his history of violent behavior. Donald Lee Bujak, whose name appeared on a tip to police, was investigated for years before being ruled out. The digital age has spawned countless amateur investigators and online communities dedicated to solving the Zodiac case. Websites like ZodiacKiller.com and forums on Reddit have created virtual detective agencies where armchair investigators share theories, analyze evidence, and propose new suspects. While some of this work has been valuable, particularly in the areas of cipher analysis and historical research, it has also generated an overwhelming amount of speculation and false leads that have complicated official investigations. Professional criminal profilers have offered insights into the Zodiac's likely characteristics. An intelligent white male, probably in his 20s or 30s during the active period, with possible military or law enforcement training, and a deep need for attention and control. The killer's ability to evade capture despite leaving numerous clues suggests someone with detailed knowledge of police procedures and forensic techniques. The enduring challenge of the Zodiac case lies in separating legitimate leads from the hundreds of false theories that have emerged over 5 decades. Every odd coincidence, every person who lived in Northern California during the late 1960s and early 1970s, every individual with an interest in codes or cryptography has been scrutinized by someone as a potential suspect. The case has become a sort of criminal Rorschach test, where people see what they want to see in the limited evidence available. Recent years have brought new suspect theories based on advanced genealogical research and document analysis. The Casebreakers, a group of former law enforcement officials and military intelligence officers, have claimed to have identified the Zodiac as Gary Francis Post, an Air Force veteran who died in 2018. Their theory is based on circumstantial evidence including scars that allegedly match a witness description and anagrams found in the Zodiac letters. However, the FBI and other law enforcement agencies have not endorsed these claims, and the evidence remains largely circumstantial. Fox News. The Digital Age Hunt. Modern advances. The advancement of DNA technology and forensic genealogy has brought renewed hope to cold cases across the country, and the Zodiac investigation has not been immune to these developments. The same techniques that identified the Golden State Killer in 2018 have been applied to the Zodiac case, though with limited success due to the age and degraded condition of the available evidence. The most significant breakthrough in recent years came not from DNA analysis, but from the world of cryptography. On December 5, 2020, a team of codebreakers, including David Orenchak, Jarl Van Eyck, and Sam Blake, finally cracked the Z340 cipher that had puzzled experts for over 50 years. Using a combination of computer algorithms and human insight, they discovered that the cipher used a complex transposition method that rearranged the symbols before encryption big data wire. The solution revealed another chilling message from the killer. I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show, which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber, because it will send me to paradise all the sooner. Because I now have enough slaves to work for me, where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise, so they are afraid of death. I am not afraid, because I know that my new life will be an easy one in paradise death. While the cipher solution provided new insights into the Zodiac's psychology and confirmed his authorship of the Z340, it did not reveal his identity or provide new investigative leads. The breakthrough did, however, demonstrate that modern computational methods could potentially unlock other Zodiac communications, including the unsolved Z13 and Z32 ciphers. DNA evidence in the Zodiac case has proven more challenging than in other cold cases. The killer's communications to newspapers were handled by numerous people over the decades, contaminating potential DNA evidence. Additionally, the stamps and envelopes used by the Zodiac may not contain sufficient genetic material for modern analysis, and any DNA that is recovered may not belong to the killer. Despite these challenges, investigators continue to explore new forensic techniques. Advanced DNA analysis methods can now extract genetic profiles from smaller and more degraded samples than was previously possible. Forensic genealogy, which uses DNA databases and family tree construction to identify suspects, offers the most promising avenue for solving the case, though it requires high-quality DNA evidence that may not exist in the Zodiac materials. The rise of genealogy websites like 23 Me and Ancestry DNA has created vast databases of genetic information that could theoretically be used to identify the Zodiac if suitable DNA evidence can be recovered. However, privacy concerns and legal restrictions limit law enforcement's access to these databases, and the process requires court approval and careful adherence to constitutional protections. Modern digital analysis has also been applied to other aspects of the case. Computer programs can now analyze handwriting samples with greater precision than human experts, potentially identifying subtle characteristics that might link the Zodiac letters to known suspects. Voice analysis technology has been applied to the recorded phone calls attributed to the Zodiac, though the quality of the recordings limits the effectiveness of such analysis. The digitization of police files and evidence has made the case more accessible to researchers and investigators worldwide. Online databases now contain high-resolution images of the Zodiac letters, crime scene photographs, and police reports, allowing for crowdsourced analysis that was impossible in previous decades. While this has led to numerous theories and potential breakthroughs, it has also generated significant amounts of speculation and false leads. Geographic profiling, a technique that analyzes the locations of crimes to predict where an offender might live or work, has been applied to the Zodiac case with interesting results. The cluster of attacks in the San Francisco Bay Area suggests the killer was intimately familiar with the region, likely living or working in the area during the active period. This analysis has helped investigators focus their efforts on suspects with local connections, though it has not definitively identified the killer. The legacy of fear and unanswered questions. More than 5 decades after the first Zodiac attack, the case continues to exert a powerful hold on the American imagination. The killer's combination of brutal violence and intellectual gamesmanship created a criminal archetype that has influenced countless books, movies, and television shows. From the 2007 David Fincher film Zodiac to numerous documentaries and true crime podcasts, the case has become a cultural touchstone that represents both the limits of law enforcement and the enduring power of fear. The psychological impact of the Zodiac case extended far beyond its immediate victims. The killer's ability to terrorize an entire region through media manipulation demonstrated the power of fear as a weapon. His letters and phone calls created a climate of anxiety that affected millions of people, changing how they thought about personal safety and random violence. The case marked a turning point in American criminal history, showing how a single individual could hold an entire community hostage through psychological warfare. For the families of the victims, the lack of resolution has meant decades of pain without closure. Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were just beginning their adult lives when they were murdered on Lake Herman Road. Darlene Ferrin left behind a young daughter who grew up knowing her mother was killed by a man who was never caught. Cecilia Shepard died 2 days after the Lake Berryessa attack, her promising future cut short by random violence. Paul Stein was working as a cab driver to support his doctoral studies in English at San Francisco State University when he became the Zodiac's final confirmed victim. Each of these individuals had hopes, dreams, and loved ones who were forever changed by their encounter with evil. The true tragedy of the Zodiac case lies not in the unsolved puzzle of the killer's identity, but in the very real human cost of his actions. While amateur investigators debate cipher solutions and suspect theories, the victims' families continue to live with the consequences of violence that struck without warning or reason. The case has also had a profound impact on law enforcement procedures and criminal investigation techniques. The Zodiac's ability to evade capture despite leaving numerous clues exposed weaknesses in police communication and coordination between jurisdictions. The case helped drive improvements in multi-agency cooperation and information sharing that have become standard in modern criminal investigations. The Zodiac's use of media manipulation has been studied by criminologists and psychologists as an example of how offenders can use publicity to enhance their psychological impact. The killer's letters and ciphers represent an early form of what would now be called terrorist communication, messages designed to create fear and confusion rather than to convey specific information or demands. In recent years, the case has experienced renewed public interest through documentaries and books that have introduced new generations to the mystery. The 2024 Netflix series, This is the Zodiac Speaking, brought fresh attention to the Arthur Lee Allen theory. While numerous podcasts have explored every aspect of the case in exhaustive detail, the digital age has democratized the investigation, allowing anyone with internet access to examine the evidence and propose theories. While this has generated enormous amounts of speculation and false leads, it has also kept the case alive in public consciousness and occasionally produced genuine insights. The solution of the Z340 cipher in 2020 was achieved by amateur cryptographers working with publicly available materials, demonstrating the value of crowdsourced investigation. Yet despite all the attention, analysis, and technological advances, the fundamental questions remain unanswered. Who was the Zodiac killer? Is he still alive? Did he stop killing in the early 1970s? Or did he simply stop communicating with the media? Were there other victims whose deaths were never connected to the Zodiac? The case represents a unique form of unfinished business in American criminal justice. Unlike other famous unsolved cases that fade from public attention over time, the Zodiac case continues to generate new theories, new suspects, and new hope for resolution. The killer's deliberate cultivation of mystery and fear has proven more durable than he could have imagined, ensuring that his crimes continue to haunt the public imagination long after his last confirmed attack. As we close this journey into the dark corners of the Zodiac case, we're left with the unsettling reality that sometimes evil simply vanishes into the shadows, leaving behind only questions and fear. The phantom figure who terrorized Northern California may have achieved a form of immortality that he craved, but not in the way he intended. Rather than being remembered as a criminal mastermind, the Zodiac has become a symbol of unresolved trauma and the limitations of justice. The case serves as a reminder that not all mysteries are meant to be solved, and not all monsters are caught before they disappear into the darkness. In the end, the true horror of the Zodiac killer may not be his crimes themselves, but the possibility that he lived out his remaining days in anonymity, taking his secrets to the grave while his victims' families continued to search for answers that may never come. Yet the search continues, driven by the fundamental human need for resolution and justice. New technologies emerge, new suspects surface, and new theories develop, keeping alive the hope that someday, somehow, the phantom will finally be unmasked. Until then, the Zodiac case remains what it has always been, a chilling reminder that some shadows are deeper and darker than we dare to imagine, and that some mysteries may be destined to remain forever unsolved. As you drift off to sleep tonight, let the mysteries of the past remind you of the importance of the present moment, the safety of your surroundings, and the value of the peaceful rest that awaits you. The darkness that once terrorized California is now just a story, a puzzle from another time, unable to reach you in the sanctuary of your dreams.